photograph. Dear children, this poem is written by Shirley Toulson. So Shirley Toulson is a British writer. In this poem, the poet remembers her mother who died about 12 years ago. There is a photograph taken when her mother had gone for a sea holiday with her cousins and her uncle. Looking at the photograph, she experiences a great loss of her mother. The poem basically talks about how death can silence you and leave you speechless. So this poem is a heartfelt tribute to the poet's mother who has died 12 years ago. She becomes nostalgic seeing her mother's photograph and left silent at the end of the poem, reminiscing the loss of her mother. So let us go to the first stanza of the poem, a photograph. I am going to recite the poem for you. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she the big girl some 12 years or so. All three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera. A sweet face my mother's, that was before I was born, and the sea which has appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. Let us go to the lines once again. So here, a cardboard refers to a photograph. You know that a photograph is pasted on a cardboard. So here cardboard, it is a very thick, stiff paper, usually pale brown in color. We want a hard paper for sticking the photograph. The photograph will be intact when it is stuck on a thick sheet of paper or a stiff paper. The cardboard here refers to the photograph. Okay, so the photograph shows her how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands. So this poem is written after the death of the poet's mother. In her hand is the photograph of her mother, and in the photograph there are two other girls. They are the cousins Betty and Dolly, her mother's two girl cousins, and they went for paddling. Paddling means walking barefooted in shallow water. Walking barefooted in shallow water. That is what meant by paddling. So they went paddling in the beach, and each one holding one of my mother's hands. So two girl cousins are there, Betty and Dolly. Each one of them are holding the hands of the poet's mother on either side. On either side, each of the cousin is holding or catching hold of the mother's hands. And she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. So in the photograph, the poet's mother is the big girl, the tall girl. Okay, she is the eldest of the others. She is 12 years or so. All three stood still to smile through the hair. When you are standing on the beach, there will be cool breeze coming from the seas. And in the breeze, your hair will be blowing. Okay, and sometimes it will fall onto their face. These three girls, they were standing still. They were posing to get a photograph. Okay, so they want to be photographed by their uncle. So it was a sea holiday for the poet's mother and the two girl cousins, Betty and Dolly. They were taken to the beach by their uncle. Their uncle is going to take a photograph, and the photograph is taken. And in the photograph, the three girls were smiling through the hair. And that photograph is with the poet now. She is looking at the photograph. Okay, so a sweet face my mother's. So in that photograph, the poet's mother's face is so sweet, so cute, so beautiful. So a sweet face my mother's, and that was before I was born. So before the poet was born, that means when the poet's mother has turned 12 years or so, this photograph was taken. So that time our poet is not there, she was not born. And the last two lines are very, very important. Let us see. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. See, here there is a contrast. You know that the sea, which is everlasting, which is lasting forever, which is perennial, has changed less. So, no apparent change has happened to the sea. The sea changed less. But what happened to the three girls? They have changed a lot. So their life is short, terribly transient. Here means transient means living for a short period of time. Transient means temporary or lasting only for a short period of time. So feet or transient feet refers to what the transience of human life. Transience means our life is momentary, our life is transitory, our life is remaining for a short period of time. So, the apparently not changed sea has washed their terribly transient feet. So, when you are there in the beach, your footprints will be there on the beach. And after some time, the waves will come, it will wipe everything. So, the footprints will get disappeared. It will wipe away all this. So like that, human beings are also like that. So our life is transitory. We remain for a short period of time. We are subjected to death and decay. So the transience of human life against the permanence of nature or permanence of the sea is contrasted here in these lines. Dear children, now I will recite stanza 2 for you. That is, lines 10 to 15 of this poem. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot, see Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. The sea holiday was her past, my niece her laughter, both arrive with the labored ease of loss. Children, snapshot means photograph. It was 20 or 30 years after the photo was taken. The poet's mother was looking at the photograph. She started laughing because she was amused when she saw her old appearance. Showing this photograph to her cousins Betty and Dolly, she is telling them, Betty and Dolly, you just see how we were made to dress for the sea holiday. Dear children, the poet is telling us about those happy moments of her mother's childhood when they were taken to the beach by their uncle. The sweet memories of the sea holiday flashed through her mother's mind once again as she looked at the photograph. The sea holiday was her mother's past. Her mother's sweet, beautiful smile on seeing the old photograph is the poet's past now. The poet's mother has lost her happy childhood days. The poet has lost her mother's sweet, beautiful laughter. Now the poet's mother is no longer alive. She is no more now. Dear children, now see the next line. Both of them ride with the labored ease of loss. Here, ride means to get disappointed or disgusted. Children, both the mother and the poet suffer a great sense of loss. The poet's mother has lost her beautiful childhood. She has to accept the fact of her old age. Now she is no more young. She has to understand that she is no longer young. Now the poet has to accept the fact that she cannot see the mother's laughter as she is no longer alive now. Both of them are disappointed and dejected over their respective losses. Both of them drive with the labored ease of loss. Children, labored here means struggle hard, and ease means to make less hard. So here we can see two contrasting ideas. The phrase labored ease of loss is an example for oxymoron. Children, oxymoron is a poetic device in which two contradictory terms appear side by side. Dear children, here we go to the last stanza of the poem, A Photograph by Shirley Toulson. Children, as I told you, there are 3 stanzas in this poem. Each stanza tells us about the different stages of the mother's life. The first stanza is that of the poet's mother's childhood. The second is that of the poet's mother's middle age. And the last stanza is the stage that describes the poet's mother's death. Let us go to the last few lines now. I will recite a few lines. Now she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, and of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. Children, in these lines, the poet says that her mother has been dead for the past 12 years. That is the same number of years that was the age of her mother in the photograph. Okay, you remember the photograph of the mother? It was taken by her uncle when the poet's mother was 12 years or so. Okay, so the poet's mother was 12 years when the photo was taken. Now her mother was dead. Now her mother was no more there. Okay, and 12 years have passed. So the first line, now she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, means 12 years have passed after the death of the mother, the poet's mother. Means the poet's mother had died, 12 years past now. Okay, so, and of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. Okay, so that means the poet is now looking at the mother's photograph. She has nothing else to do. The poet is looking very sad and gloomy. She is unable to think of her mother's death now. She is so sad. She has no words to explain how her mother's death has affected her. The fact that the death has silenced her mother has also made her silent. She has become highly emotional. She has become speechless. Okay, so the lines, now she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, and of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. So now the poet is destined to live a life without her mother. Her mother has been dead for the past few years. Out of all these circumstances, there is nothing else left to say. The matter is closed and silence has sealed its fate. Okay? So here are 2 questions that I would like to explain to you. One is, what is the meaning of the line, both arrive with labored ease of loss? So the answer is, both the mother and the poet suffered a great sense of loss. The mother lost her childhood innocence and youthful spirit that the photograph had captured some years ago. On the other hand, the poet has lost the smile of her mother, which has become a thing of the past. Later, she loses her mother too. Now, the last question. The three stanzas depict three different faces. What are they? The first stanza shows the poet's mother as a 12-year-old girl with a pretty smiling face. Then she is paddling with her two girl cousins on the beach. They all have a happy, youthful laughter. This is before the poet was born. The second stage describes the middle-aged mother laughing at her own snapshot that was taken a long time back. The third stage describes the silence on the poet's face at the death of her mother. Okay, thank you children. Thank you and goodbye.